Who are you? I'm the man who can give you the one thing you want. What's that? Time.
Welcome into another edition of Box Office Quarterbacks. Me and Ahmed both just got out of Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, and there's Ahmed plugging the $30 popcorn bucket that he got. That's pretty damn cool, though, Ahmed. That glows in the dark, too, right? Or it turns on or something. There we go.
It lights up. They
That's
should
worth.
have never gave me money.
That is worth the money. I will say that. I have a Thor Love and Thunder special one from a few months ago. It's not as cool as that, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is cool. But we do want to talk about the movie itself, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. A lot of hype going into this movie, especially for the debut of Jonathan Majors as Kang the Conqueror. My first thoughts right off the bat, Ahmed, was I found this movie a little bit disappointing. I think that Jonathan Majors does make this movie work, but you don't meet him really until the second half of the movie. I think the first half of this movie is just really, really rough, and that's really going to affect my score when it comes to what this movie is going to rank in the MCU for me.
That makes sense. It was definitely a slow burn, and I felt the same way. I was like, okay, how's this going to tie into this? And then when we finally do see Jonathan Majors as Kang the Conqueror, it kind of makes the wait worth it, in my opinion. And just he stole every scene, so it really makes up for it, in my opinion.
Yeah, he is great, and he really doesn't have a lot to work with here. I don't think the story is even as strong as the second Ant-Man movie, which is crazy to say. I think Ant-Man itself works better when Scott and Hank are playing with things in the real world and they're making things shrink. Like there's a certain kind of whimsical quality to the first Ant-Man when he's in like enlarging a Thomas the Tank Engine or something like that, and just seeing like a Hot Wheels car come to life. When you put him into an entirely CGI environment like this, it kind of loses a little bit of its charm. It reminded me a lot of the Star Wars prequels in a way, and some of the story beats even reminded me of that as well.
Your criticisms are fair. There are definitely a lot of winks. Certain scenes are kind of like callbacks to previous films, but also I don't know. I think it like you said, it's not the best Ant Man movie, but I think it might be the best Ant Man movie, which is not saying much, but it probably is not even fair to call it an Ant-Man movie just because it's sort of like Kang's prequel, and that's not uncommon for the DC, or I'm sorry, for the Marvel Cinematic Universe to do that. I was going to say the MC universe, but you guys know what I mean.
Yeah.
Every certain movie, I mean, Captain America: Civil War was kind of like the prequel to Spider-Man, Black Panther, and it was like just another Avengers, really. But I didn't mind that. And, I've said this in previous episodes when we talk about the MCU and how impatient I was getting. But this movie really made me want to have more patience because now I've realized that the wait is worth it.
Yeah. For me, I think it's almost unfair for this movie to come out directly after Wakanda Forever, which is such a great movie and my favorite movie of last year. And it's so well made, and the just even the cinematography and the editing in that movie are so good, and it gets wonky at times here. It just is like comparing apples to oranges. It's not fair that that movie came out right after this. As far as comparing it to the movies that came out last year, I think Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness had a better story, and I had problems with that movie as well. This movie, more than any Marvel movie, I would say, would confuse general audiences if they just went into it cold. And I know we're 25, 26 movies in at this point, but this one exists solely to get Kang to his rightful place in whatever this new phase is going to be. So this felt more like a chapter than a movie to me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that's just because they have a literary standpoint they're trying to fulfill. It's more than 10 years into the making, so they have this goal in mind, and that's what, has kind of just given Marvel so much success. But, the loyal viewers, of course, we're going to keep wanting more. Um, I don't know. I think just because you had said something, and I'm drawing a blank on it now, but when you were saying that it didn't have as good a storyline as Doctor Strange, I see where you're coming from, but I think this one was more psychological. It was definitely because the thing about Kang as a villain, and I'm not spoiling anything, but I'm just talking purely from an actor's perspective. Jonathan Majors as a villain, I think, has set a new precedent in his portrayal as almost Shakespearean.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people will maybe come for the story, but they'll stay for Jonathan Majors, and knowing that he's going to have a much bigger role in every single capacity, because they've already established that he is a variant and he has many others like him. We're just going to see a lot more of him, and I think a lot of people, if they don't want to, they're going to have no choice but to. And I promise you, it'll be worth it, just because maybe we're going to be in for a really amazing surprise and everything's going to come full circle. And because of Jonathan Majors, we'll be able to make that happen.
Yeah, he gets very scary at times in this movie. Kudos to him, because he was my favorite part of this. I really did like MODOK too. He was such a weird little dude that I like that as comic relief. But I don't want to say too much when it comes to this, and I don't really want to get into final scores until we talk about it as a group. Full spoilers, full steam ahead. But I will say I was a little disappointed. I don't think it's the worst Marvel movie ever made. I don't think it's like Thor the Dark World or Black Widow, but it is in the lower tier for me.
It's not on the lower tier, but it's certainly not on the higher tier. I will say I was impressed with it, just because I'm kind of on this wave of hating every sequel and reboot that comes out.
Yeah.
And if you don't know that I hate reboots and sequels, I encourage you to go to our website and check out the review board. Especially you, Hollywood. Please subscribe,
Right.
everyone in Hollywood. But no, I was impressed by it, and I think like a lot of people shouldn't be so quick to shoot it down. Remember just what we're dealing with here.
Yeah. Um, we'll get into it. Those are our initial thoughts. So we'll be back though with Eric for our full spoiler review this weekend. Keep it locked right here on Box Office QBs. I am Jeff. He's Ahmed. This has been a non-spoiler review of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania by the Popcorn Bucket. It
Just
is
for
worth it.
Yeah, it's not going to fit on my desk, but it'll fit on my home office desk.
You're
So
welcome for the plug, AMC. Please sponsor us while you're at it.
yeah,
And yeah, please sponsor us. We'll be back. Hope you guys have a good weekend.